Look, early in my term, I announced a major plan to provide millions of working families with debt relief for their college student debt. Tens of millions of people in debt were literally about to be canceled, their debts. But my MAGA Republican friends in the Congress, elected officials, and special interests stepped in and sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked it. But that didn't stop me. I announced we were going to pursue alternative paths for student debt relief for as many borrowers as possible. And that's the effort that's been underway the last 2 years.
Classic. Blame the MAGA Republicans for, well, anything, right? But is anyone really falling for what is ultimately an attempt to bribe voters still? I mean, it's 2024, and if you think the government will just make your debt go away, I have a bridge to sell you. But that's just what these globalist actors do, isn't it? It's the old bait and switch. Unfortunately, even people with college degrees still can't seem to see what's really going on here. Debt forgiveness is an oxymoron. Someone's going to pay for it. It's just redistributed. Let's all be honest, as this only hurts the average American. Joining us now to discuss, Marine Corps veteran and congressional candidate for California's 39th District, David Serpa. David, thanks so much for being with us today. It's great to have you.
Alison, it's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, I'm curious to know, what do you make of the Biden administration announcing they will be canceling $1.2 billion of student loan debt?
Well, I hope that bridge that you're selling is going to be sold to the same voters that bought that bridge to nowhere, because we're still trying to figure out where that money went. And unfortunately, that $1.2 billion that's going towards student loan forgiveness, it's for 153,000 people, which comes out to about $7,843 per person. I mean, that's insulting to these people who have been paying an extraordinary amount of not only debt, but this interest. And all of this debt is owned by our federal government, and they have been selling our children's future down the road. The American dream has been for sale to the highest bidder, and just like you said, they're getting out of college, and there are no jobs to be found.
That's exactly what's happening. It's very sad, and I don't know how much longer we can sustain this. And it's amazing that he's just so relentless in this pursuit. He just won't give it up. So I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see what happens there. Now, Biden's 3-day California visit here is thankfully coming to an end today. But I want to know, what was he even doing here, really? I mean, there were no massive campaign events, and I'm pretty sure the people that attended these small events were not there on their own accord. What do you think was going on there?
Well, I'll tell you what the Democrats are doing is they're realizing something that the Republicans haven't realized yet, which there are districts that are up for grabs in California. And some of these districts are going to shock you. I believe that my district is up for grabs. I think we could pull off the biggest upset in the country, but I would love to do the same thing for President Trump that the Democratic Party is doing for Joe Biden. We've invited him out. We put an announcement live on all of our feeds, or on all of my feeds, saying, President Trump, we'd love you to come out to the Chino Hills Airport, to the Threshold Aviation Group, and have a rally, because we know that people will actually show up. And I know that California is worth fighting for. And, all of the people that have, decided to flee over the years, their instinct was to flight, was to run. But there are a lot of people that don't have that luxury, that are here to fight. And what we're here to do is to wake up the people that are in freeze mode so that we can have an effective military ground game here in California. And the best thing that we could do is fly in our commander-in-chief, President Trump. And we've got the place to host him, and we've got the people that want to host him. And we've got some districts that can absolutely be flipped. And it is time that we put the Democrats on their heels, like they've been doing to the Republicans.
Yeah.
Let's go after territory that they said cannot be won, where they're still laughing at Republicans, because the ones that are here to fight, and the ones that are here want to convert the Democrats that have been abandoned by their party as well.
That's absolutely so true, and I think definitely something worth fighting for. I speak to so many local residents here in California, and a lot of them are not willing to just give up and leave like so many others have. It's a wonderful state. It used to be great. I think we can make it great again, but we do have to fight. So I appreciate all that you are doing. But you're right, California is under terrible leadership, as we all know. I mean, the budget crisis is reportedly worse than Newsom had even projected. Some estimations indicate the deficit could reach $73 billion. David, how did California get here? I mean, where exactly did the money go? Because we know they certainly didn't spend it on border security or, helping the homeless issue or critical infrastructure needs. So what's going on here?
Well, California has essentially become a giant money laundering operation, and we are selling everybody that bridge to nowhere. And we went from this $98 billion surplus to a $73 billion deficit in about 2 years. And California's constitution, this is different than the federal level. It requires that the governor submit a balanced budget by January 10th of each year. And the fiscal year starts on July 1st. And these are some of the things that we've been sold in the past. Proposition 1A, which was the high-speed rail, the bullet train to nowhere. We voted for $9.95 billion, which we didn't get. We voted for Prop 1 in 2014, $7 billion in water infrastructure. Additional $1.6 billion have been spent, and we're perpetually in a drought. I don't know how much of that water that we caught during this last recent rainfall, but I'm sure it wasn't enough. And then we also voted in 2022 for Prop 28, which was supposed to secure an additional $1 billion in arts and music funding. And the next year, Governor Newsom cut $1.2 billion in arts and music funding from his budget, not to mention the lottery money. The lottery money was supposed to save this state. It was supposed to put our schools in the green. It was supposed to provide cutting edge opportunities for our children in education. And the best thing that our parents can hope for at this point in California is to be freed from this education system, have their children freed, and be offered school choice so that we could finally start educating our children properly. If you don't educate, you incarcerate. And I don't want our children being held hostage to these California failing schools where a zip code and a failing school or a lottery could determine their children's future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's devastating to see what's become of it all. But again, just reinforces the point that we need to continue the fight. And, I can't help but think that it's almost like all these issues California is facing are actually being caused by the people in power, the people running the show. To add to your list, we're facing skyrocketing utility bills now because of this incessant push for climate action. But I mean, who ultimately benefited from this yet again, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what they're doing is it's another money laundering operation in the state of California. Wind and solar have made up about 3% of the energy grid, while nuclear energy has made about 32% of our energy grid over the last several years. And we're decommissioning nuclear power plants. We decommissioned San Onofre. We're going to be decommissioning our last our last nuclear plant, which is scheduled to be shut down at the end of next year. And the problem is that nuclear energy is too efficient. And I would love to debate RFK Jr. on this. I love a lot of his stances, but he is so wrong on nuclear energy. He calls it the most expensive way to boil a pot of water. But what it is this is a designed attack on our energy infrastructure because nuclear energy is too efficient. In fact, anybody who served in the military can tell you this. All of our aircraft carriers run on nuclear energy and desalinized water. All of our submarines run on nuclear energy and desalinized water. And we are an oil-rich country. We are an oil-rich state. We are energy-rich in, we found another 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. We're constantly finding new uranium deposits, which of course lead to nuclear energy once that is enriched. But what they want to do is they want to further tax, burden the consumer, our serfs, our modern day slaves, with another fee by forcing them to buy solar through programs like HERO, which is a predatory program. It was declared predatory. You have people paying 8%, 11% interest rates, being oversold solar systems that they don't need. And ultimately, that energy is not stored for them when they need it. That their grid does not stay on when the lights go out. And that's what people are worried about here in California and throughout the country. What happens when the grid goes out? We want our city to be shining far into the future. We want the pumps to be on regardless of what is happening in the rest of the world. And that's why we need people to focus on an America First agenda, an American people first agenda, because they have divided us They have conquered us and they have colonized us. And that's where we're at currently. We've been conquered and colonized, and it's time that we take the fight to them in the places that they're not expecting that. And some of those places are deeply held Democratic districts because they're just as tired as we are of paying for groceries and for childcare and for seeing these failed education systems. And it's time that we start welcoming them, just like Reagan did in California, and we start building that big tent Republican Party. We say, hey, listen, I'm sorry that you're hurting my brother, my sister, family. This is us. It is one fight. It is one country. And a revolution is local. And it's time that we take to the streets and we take it back.
It is indeed. Yes, so true. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing that with us. And also, I would love to see that debate with RFK Jr. I hope that can happen. David, we're almost out of time here, but give us your 60-second pitch. Tell us about your campaign and the platform you're running on.
Sure. My name's David Serpa. I wrote a couple of books called Common Sense for California. You could see them there behind me. And unfortunately, common sense isn't so common. And so we needed to define that. And for me, the most important things that we do is we start with water, energy, and defense. Water so that we can make our California farms green again, start bringing down the cost of food, growing the food that we eat here, and then desalinize our water, bank on abundance and energy and stop capitalizing on scarcity and bleeding our people dry. And then finally, you don't have a country if you can't defend it. And right now, we do not have a country, and you can't have robust social systems if you do not have a robust border. And you can't help the people in your country if you're constantly adding new people to it. And so we're failing, and it's time that we return to common sense. And I'm a combat veteran. I'm willing to get it done in the trenches, but I need your support. I need you to show up with me. And if you're not in California, what's happening here is going to find you wherever you are if we don't fight it here in ground zero, here in the trenches.
As California goes, David Serpa, congressional candidate for California's 39th district. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate it.
Take care.
For all our viewers